All right. Good morning. I hope everybody likes our chicken foot intro. And if you've been watching the show, you know what I'm referring to about that. So good morning to you, everybody. Studio 10-4 Live, bringing you the morning drive for April 22nd, 2026. Man, we all made it through 420. So congratulations to all of you that celebrated, partook, or ignored, whatever the case may be, whatever made you get through that day. I was traveling, so I was listening to Ozzy's Boneyard on Sirius XM, and Keith Roth, the DJ on there, was completely into it. And uh, smoke it if you got it, was his thing for the day, man. It was a get baked day. 420. Anyways, some of you may or not know that, but we'll explain sometime. But 420 is the official numerator of the marijuana culture, if you will. So anyway, good to be back in the studio. I feel like there's about 1,000 miles between where I was last week and back here now, and that's about what I did. I did about 1,000-mile loop and down to California and back. Got to experience $8 a gallon diesel and $5.56 a gallon gasoline, and yeah, I'll tell you, I think it's pretty much even across the country, except for the diesel. The diesel's pretty stupid as far as California goes. They just can't seem to get a handle on it. And it's the most expensive that I know of down there. So sorry, Californians and others that have to travel into the state of California to get diesel. Just too much, man. I don't know. Anyway. Went to a great show over the weekend. Now, the reason I was down there, myself and Dan and Shan from 10-4 Magazine, we're down at the Stan Silva Senior Memorial Truck Show in Castroville, California. And I'll talk more about that this afternoon. Just wanted to mention it and say what a great show it was. I've got a lot of video that I shot from it. It got to the point where I was, in the beginning, trying to shoot each truck because I was judging each truck, and we had 65 trucks. And it got to the point where it's like, okay, I'm going to run out of time before I get this done if I just don't get through this and judge the trucks and get it done and not video them. And that's what ended up happening. So I didn't get them all. I got a lot of them, and I got a lot of guys on the way out too when they were leaving the show Saturday afternoon. It was a one-day show, so I'll be sharing some of that stuff up here pretty quick and getting it out there. I want to let you know we have Mr. Rob Carpenter in the green room. We're going to bring him out in a minute, but first, I want to bring our guys in. Mr. Brandon Carpenter, the original Carpenter of this show, anyways, and Matt Carey. Good morning, guys.
What's up? How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's another day in the Pacific Northwest. We got spring weather here. It has been rainy, sunny, windy, cold, warm. Yeah, and that's just in the last hour. So it's spring in the Pacific Northwest. So it does it whatever it wants, whenever it wants. And but good to be back home and on top of things, getting ready and warmed up for Trucking for Kids. We got basically a week and a half until showtime again.
Yeah,
sounds
good.
Good.
Be here before you know it.
Yeah, I know it will. How about you guys? What's happening in your world? What's going on up there, Brandon? You causing trouble still?
I actually brought this today just in case I would need it. Hopefully no bullets are going to be flying at us. So
awesome.
Keep that around just to be handy, with all the trouble I like to create. So we're actually getting ready for Tony's show. We're going to be headed down to Large Cars and Guitars here in a couple weeks, and
all right.
Obviously it's election time. I got a lot going on that week, but trying to get things kind of buttoned up and prepared for that, and we're looking forward to it. It's going to be a great show. I see a lot of good people are going to be headed there. I've seen a lot of people saying they're going, and kind of getting excited.
Good deal. Yeah, campaign trail's coming to an end, buddy.
Yeah, I know, man. 2 weeks,
but it's very busy.
Oh, yeah.
Very busy.
What's that, Matt?
I said it's coming to an end, but it's been very, 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 very busy. With everything. Lots of things coming together and getting pushed out there.
So it's going to be and again, I get the supervisor, right? Is the supervisor?
County commissioner. He's running
County
for
commissioner.
county commissioner.
Commissioner. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you might as well say supervisor. But
yeah, same thing. I think we're out where I come from. It's the same thing. But County Commissioner Carpenter will be in the studio. Is that the what it's looking like? You think you're in or what?
Potentially, I feel good about it. I keep saying, that I'm out there. Compared to all the other candidates that are in this race, I'm out there. I feel like a lot more than they are. I'm out hitting it, and I'm talking to a lot of people. I'm getting a lot of good feedback, and I think I've got a great support behind me. So, but you never really know till election day. That's going to be the interesting day.
Yeah, well, the way politicians are dropping like flies in this country right now, for whatever reasons, if you've got any cobwebs out there, just either get rid of them fast or reveal now and see what happens, because holy crap. I mean, there's just so many that
we already, trust me, we already all that. There is
we already dealt with the fact that I'm there's been a whole smear campaign against me. It's been kind of funny because the most ridiculous things in the world that they've had to say, that there's really, I lead a pretty boring life. I mean, to some people, I guess, that look at my life, they're probably like, man, this guy, he's got a lot going on and he really lives. But to me, I lead a pretty boring life. So as far as there being dirt and everything, I've never even had a speeding ticket in my life, so I'm pretty dang boring. It's not a whole lot to find out.
Boring, yeah. Yeah.
Trust me, they tried to find stuff, they tried to dig stuff up, and just not there. I mean,
it was actually a lot of fun
to make things that wasn't.
Yeah,
it was actually a lot of fun when they were doing that. We had fun with it. We had a good time with it, and we definitely used it to our advantage, and I think it worked out well because they sure were standing there holding a bag at the end. It was pretty well empty and worked out pretty good.
Well, good luck, and I hope it works out the way you want it to, and we're calling you County Commissioner Carpenter next time. So we'll remove the trailer guy tag and put County Commissioner up there, man.
Yeah, the commish.
There you are. There you are. Well, so we've been talking about this next guest and kind of what he's been up to, and talk about stirring the pot. So, stuff that's going on in the industry is kind of how I phrased it. Yeah, there's stuff that goes on in our industry that we rather didn't. And when you talk about that, for me, there's a lot. That could be a lot. It could be regulation, could be, everybody that's got their hand in the cookie jar that's pulling money along the way from the guys hauling the freight, to unscrupulous carriers, and apparently, all the above is thriving. It's like social media marketing at this point, or social media period. I mean, there's such a plethora of just false accounts, money grabs, fake accounts. It's just so out of control right now. It's the worst it's ever been. Now I don't know about the trucking part of it, is it or is it not? I don't know, but we're going to bring this guy in and we'll get his take on it and let him enlighten us all. Mr. Rob Carpenter, how are you? Good morning.
Good. How you doing?
Good. Thanks. Thanks for joining us this morning, man. I like the backdrop there. You got it going on. I like the truck. Is that a rotating screen that we're going to be seeing trucks driving by or what?
Yeah, I think that's every so often, but my wife, she redid this room and then she put that TV back there.
Yeah.
It looked like a good idea. And then you actually had to use it. And you realize that anything that's in front of me right here, you can see in that screen. So you got to
the
screen on. But
right.
Half-eaten Cinnabon and a cup of coffee. And
yeah. I was on a show. I was like, oh Lord, they can see everything. I gotta fix this. So
well, as I kind of alluded to here, you've been in the middle of some stuff here, and I'm going to let you. Why don't you start off by first introducing yourself and who it is you are and what it is you are. Those two things are kind of probably the key to this whole thing right there.
Yeah. So it's hard in the short version, but I'm Rob Carpenter. I do risk consulting, expert witness work, litigation stuff, investigations. And then I don't know, I started driving 25 years ago, went into brokering freight, learned the business, ran some businesses, sold a business, then went into big fleet management around the US. And I do some work in the UK too, but mostly US stuff. So then we kind of took on this investigation piece because in the expert witness litigation role, one of the things that we kept finding was just it was always something, right? And the more you got into it, the worse it got. So then we just kind of went on the hunt, and it was, got us where we are now.
And some of the work as of late, your most recent stuff's been picked up by some major news companies, people, organizations, whatever we want to call them. And they've put it out there. In fact, you've got a couple of different things out there right now, correct?
Yeah, CBS for whatever reason. I've never been a watcher of CBS, but I guess CBS picked up on that there was a narrative there that everybody was on, so they adopted it. But they actually came to Matt's. So at Matt's, we did part of the broker show where we went and actually talked undercover with some of the brokers and just said, hey, if we're a bad carrier or if we don't have any experience at all, we just got our authority. Would you hire us? And it was absolutely. So it kind of bled into the broker side. And then on the 60 Minutes piece, it was more the European chameleon carrier in general piece. So it kind of, they're rounding their bases, and I don't think they're done yet. So
I probably you're right. They're not. I mean, and like we discussed yesterday, there's a lot of layers to this, what you're in and involved in and what you're bringing out. And now what they're, going to bring out. Carriers is one thing, brokers is another, and they work together. And between the two of them, man, I'll tell you what, if you don't know what you're doing, you don't stand a chance as a trucker, right? I mean, the odds of you actually being able to, stay healthy, make money, and stay in business are pretty slim to none, right?
Yeah, especially if you got bad carriers and bad brokers. I mean, that's, if you're on the good side of that, I mean, you might be just pushed out. And really, that's what we've seen over the years. I mean, you've seen lower rates, you've seen a number of other things. Just the fact that you might not be chosen for a load because someone, instead of your $4 a mile, which is justified right now in some cases, there's somebody out there who's bidding that load that might be doing it for $1.30 or $1.50 or $2 a mile. So at some point, it's pushing people out, the good people out.
You know what? I mean, 15, 20 years ago, I was hauling $1 a mile in some cases. And it was questionable whether that was making any money because depending on what we were doing. Now, I was into vocational stuff, dump truck, hauling materials, rock, sand, gravel. So our way of doing things is a little bit different, but $1 a mile, man, that's just a road to broke right now, right? I mean, that's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, with diesel, I mean, there's some place, like you said, diesel in California is at like $8 a gallon, and I filled up my Ram yesterday, and it stopped at $100, and it still wasn't full.
Right.
We're talking pickup truck, so it's. Really, if you're not doing like $3 or $4 a mile, you're paying to haul it.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, shop rates to get things fixed for a Class 8 truck shop. I mean, I think $250 is probably going rate, right? Brandon, what do you? I mean, I don't know what you guys are at. What's your shop rate? I mean, if you want to say.
So, well, obviously mine's a little different than everybody else's because with me doing restoration,
but barring recent experiences, some of it was free, so that doesn't count.
But Brandon's free.
I guess
how you do it.
Right.
Yeah, it could be argued, my shop rate's nothing by some people, but
if you get your mom involved, you can get it for free.
That's what we're saying. Exactly. He knows. Exactly. He knows how it works.
Yeah. I shouldn't even laugh about it at this point, but so
what are you gonna do, man?
Ordinarily, it's $125 an hour because of what I do. Because if I would charge, a normal like mechanical rate, it would be so astronomical to do what we do. There's just no way they could, shoot a restoration job would be, $500,000-$600,000 pretty easy. So. But as far as a normal, like around here, I think pretty much all of our Kenworth dealers, I think, are at $175 an hour. I mean, that's kind of, you're bumping that $200 an hour range is pretty common this day and age.
Yeah, that's about, 50, 75 short of what it is out on the West Coast, as far as I know. I think most of them are all up over 200. Automotive shops are over 200 an hour. You know, I mean, mine's not, but I'm driving an 04 and an 06 vehicle, and the shop's 125 or 140. I can't remember now an hour where I get it worked on, but you go to a regular dealership, and hell, look out.
Yeah. This day and age.
Yeah. So
the average is, so here we go. The average is, we're talking about 120 to 159. So that's the average, but you're right. I mean, it can go as high as 200. So easily. And that's just a generic repair shop. So we're not talking about trucks and diesel and things like that. So
right. Well, it's like talking about the average of gasoline or diesel in the country, and you break it down that way. You always hear that on the news. But then there's but in California, here's the California exception, or the West Coast exception.
So that just came up, actually, John. So as I'm scrolling through here, it says, except for California, which is 155 to 200 plus. Yeah. It says that right here.
Yeah.
And then it goes to the lower end. So the lower end is Mississippi and North Carolina. So they're on the lower end. So
yeah, exactly. There you go. So.
And it can cause cancer in the state of California too, just so you know.
Right. Just breathing. Yeah.
Just
breathing.
Well, anyway, my poor state. Oh, I mean, here, I'll give you. So here's some reality. In 1960 or 61, my dad bought our house in the town that I grew up in California. And in that time, he bought that house for, I think he told me it was $28,500. Okay. We sold the house after he passed in 1996 for $360 in 96. Okay. Take a guess how much that house is going for today. It's for sale today, right now.
$1 million.
Keep going.
I don't want 1.5. I mean,
right there, 1.5, 1,500,000. It was listed at 1,550, and wait a minute, there's been a price reduction, 1.499. Hey,
what a deal!
What
a smoking deal, man. And I'm looking at these pictures, and I'm just sick to death that we didn't buy that house when we should have and kept it. And anyway, so that, I mean, there you go. $28,500 in 1962, $1.5 million now. What the hell, man? It's just crazy. Anyway, back to trucking. So in this stuff that you've been working in, Rob, and trying to, get into and enlighten people about, I mean, there was kind of like two topics here. There was the carriers and there's the brokers. Let's talk about the brokers first. Brokers have been out there and they notoriously have a bad rap, and probably rightly so. There's just been so much controversy surrounding brokers, and so many of them are not even, they don't even know what a truck looks like. I'm sorry. They just don't.
Yeah.
All they're there for is to cash a check. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's about the margin. I mean, and part of that's the issue, right? I mean, they're pressured and they're incentivized to get the lowest rate to get the highest margin. So, even if they charge the shipper a higher rate, it's still in their best interest to find the cheapest carrier to haul it. So the margin's obviously optimized, but it's I think there's a place for brokers, because like I did all shipper direct freight. Like I never used a broker, but I also was a broker after I was a truck driver. So I knew how to find my own freight. I knew what it meant to have, relationship driven shipper direct freight. So
good and bad brokers, like anything else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's always going to be that way. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in, but I think you've kind of gotten to the extreme in some cases where, at some point you have to recognize there's some kind of moral, ethical, professional obligation that you have, because these trucks you're putting on the highway and the people you're hiring that are operating them, I mean, one, you've got the obligation to the people you're sharing the road with. Second of all, you've got the obligation to get your shipper, the client that you're supposed, you've sold on this, to get their stuff from A to B. And, if you're hiring, the worst carrier in the industry because they're the cheapest carrier in the industry, odds are like you're undercutting your own client, because you might not get their stuff from A to B in one piece. If it gets there at all, and could just completely vanish.
Yeah. So there's a lot of variables in there in this process, that whether it gets there in one piece, whether it gets there at all, whether it gets there on time, which, just the law of odds in what you're doing. You're in a truck that's carrying a lot of different things, driven by who knows who, driving who knows what. And so it could be any number of things that come into play, as well as all the other forces against the truck out there on the road, whether it's weather, road conditions, other drivers, on and on and on and on. So, you hire the best for the best possible outcome. You hire the worst, you're throwing the dice, right?
Get what you pay for.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Thanks. That's exactly right. You get what you pay for. But bottom line is, in the end, who's responsible for these brokers being able to get the rates that they have and offer to these drivers? Who's responsible?
Well, I think it depends on how you look at it. One, I mean, they're getting a license from FMCSA, but there's other elements that go into it. And I kind of see it both ways, because when I was a driver, before I ever brokered freight for anybody, I kind of looked at it like most other drivers do. Like, I hate brokers. All they're in, I mean, they don't have any overhead. They're taking all my money and that I'm working for. So I saw it that way. And then when I wanted to learn the business side of this whole deal, this has been 20 years ago now, I went and became a broker agent. And then I eventually got my broker authority to go with my trucking authority. But one of the things I found on the broker side is I could put a load on a load board running from Central Valley, California, of produce to, let's say, Norfolk, Virginia. And back then, maybe let's just say it was a $4,000. That would have been common to have that rate for that load. I would get probably 1 million calls on that load, because that's a hot lane. But what I would get is I would get this first one to call, old school, old head guy. I got $4 a mile on it. I'll do it. I'll get it there. I'll make sure it's right. No problems. You wouldn't expect any, right? Everything checks out. Great safety rating, good insurance, no issues. Maybe the next 30 people that call, I have a range of $1.30 a mile to $2.50 a mile. From, I just got to get home, I just need the fuel money, I just look for the backhaul.
Yep.
So what I found out pretty quick is it kind of goes to what one of the things I talk about a lot is we're no longer really a brotherhood of truckers. Like, this isn't the driver persona of 1995, right? Like, this has become real dog eat dog. And that we're just talking, let's forget the broker. The broker just put the load out. I've now got 40 different truck drivers that are all calling trucking home.
Yep.
That just gave me range of rates from $1.30 to $4 a mile. Now, if I'm the broker, is that really my fault? Yes.
So
no.
you're giving me the answer that exactly I was looking for.
Yeah.
It's on you guys. It's on the drivers now, and there's no such thing as a backhaul. Okay, I'm sorry. There's just not. There's just no such thing. And if you don't know what that means, you're part of the problem. There's no such thing as a backhaul. The rate is the rate is the rate. And you guys are rolling down the road. It costs you the same to get from point A to point B and back to point A. You got to get paid the same. You have a hard cost of operating. You need to get paid what it is to run your truck. And you need to know what it costs you to run your truck per mile, period. There's no backhaul. I couldn't explain and yell this loud enough for guys back in the day, and some of them never got it and they're out of business. Well, gee, I wonder why, So if you allow people to steal from you, they will. And this is what's happening. You're actually kind of stealing from yourselves out there, some of you. And that's not good, because that ends up costing everybody. Just because the broker then goes, well, this guy was going to do it for $4, but you're offering it for $1.30. Guess where the broker's going to go? He's going to pocket that money and send it down the road, probably with the $1.30 guy, right?
And still sell it to the shipper at the same price he would have sold it for the $4.
Oh, nothing changes on that side. Yeah, no.
It's all on our side, and that's the big piece. Is like I'm a big newspapers.com guy. I mean, I read more newspaper online than anything else. You go back and you look at the driver persona of like pre-95, pre-2000, and you had a different driver persona, but what also came with that driver persona was kind of an idea of, I'm going to make as much money as I can if I'm going to be out here away from my family doing what we do, right? What happens is you've kind of reduced barriers since that time, especially since 2000 when FMCSA took over, ICC went out. Yeah. You don't have ICC dictating who gets to come in the industry. We flooded the industry with all these different people, drivers, carriers, and brokers. And when that happens, you've got people who no longer look at that like, well, I don't have to have $4 a mile. I mean, I can do it for $1.30 because I don't have any overhead anyway. And that's just what you've kind of created in the environment. And then you add in the dog eat dog element, and there's people that'll just undercut you just to get the work. It doesn't matter how much they make on that load. They can recover it on another load. It's just, I got to get this load right now. So, that's kind of where we are as an industry, between the dog eat dog, the changing of who's in the industry. We went from 17,000 carriers under ICC to 700,000 carriers of unknown whoever in 2026 under FMCSA. So the world of trucking pre-2000 to 2026 is drastically different from driver, carrier, broker, and everything. So that's really, in a nutshell, what we've got.
Well, when I got in the mid 90s, I was contracting and doing work, and I had a dump truck as part of what I did, which ended up being my vehicle into trucking full time. But at that point in the mid 90s was all the deregulation had occurred, and everything that every guy had that was of value and worth was disintegrated. In California, I'm speaking of, we had CA numbers that's what we were all licensed and regulated under. Well, that all went away, and the rate books all went away, and everything that these guys had. And I didn't know a lot about it then. And there's a lot of guys, old timers, that I could probably get together with and bring on the show, and they'd break it down and explain it for us. But these guys had worked real hard to get what they had, and then all of a sudden, in one fell swoop, it was all gone. And it was the Wild West at that point. Trucking became a free-for-all for everybody to just dive in and go for it. And that's where we're at now. It's just this is where we're at with it now, how it is now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's times where I legitimately look at it. Well, it's probably not going to go back. There's no question about that. Yeah. But then you've got the AV pieces that are coming, next, and really it's been an infiltration of the industry for 26 years, and whether you look at it from a driver, a carrier, a broker, barrier of entry standpoint, now you've got an AV entry standpoint. So I mean, it's just constantly an infiltration of the industry that's basically bottoming out rates and everything else.
Well, and then now what we're going through this time, it's not anything unique. It's just the next time that there's some sort of crisis that's causing the cost of fuel to go up, supposedly. And we heard, last week we had Bill Rethwish on, and Bill broke it down, pretty simple terms, man. It's fuel's a commodity, and we're all victim to whatever's going on in the world internationally as to what the price is going to be set. Well, okay, I get that, but I don't agree with it. I think, if we've got such power and authority in our own country, why can't we have our own set price and get what we want to get and take care of our own? But it's all about greed, man. They want the money. So they're all cashing the check, every one of them, till they can't, and then the price goes back down again. But the first time fuel jumped and spiked when I was trucking was when 9/11 happened, and it went up over $2 a gallon, and we thought we were all going to die. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I remember when Katrina hit, and when Katrina hit, I think it went over $5 for a little bit, and that was the first time I'd really seen it go nuts like that, and I was like, oh Lord, I don't know if I'm going to financially recover from this, but you know, then I saw, you know, I want to say as recent as 60 days ago, I was filling up my truck. I could fill it up for $63. Now I'm at $100 and it doesn't touch. I mean, I'm still only at 3/4 of a tank.
And you're not even full. Yeah.
So it's gotten crazy, but
yeah.
You know, I remember, I didn't know this until this is probably 15, 16 years ago. I was driving hazmat crude oil up in Williston, North Dakota. And it wasn't long after that we found out that, you know, we had the biggest oil reserves in the world, like it out of Saudi Arabia and everybody, between the Permian Basin down in Texas and the Bakken up in Williston, North Dakota. And I'm thinking, well, why didn't this work out? You know, if we've got all this oil, why are we still dependent on everybody? And then, you know, I realized over time the refinery piece is our Achilles heel there. We've got all this oil, we just can't refine it. So,
well, here we are now. We're supposed to have, you know, this great resource, you know, between South America and ourselves, and you know, anyway, it's like, follow the money anywhere you want to go to, anywhere you want to get to the answer, follow the money and you'll get the answer to what's going on. That's just how it is. I mean, back in my hometown just the other day, there's a little hay and feed place that has a little cafe, kind of outdoor, you know, barn dance kind of thing that they do apparently, right? The county just shut them down. You can't dance and have fun. How dare you? It's like, what the hell is wrong with you people, man?
Fun police.
You got to vote for Brandon. That way, at least in up there, you can be able to do what you want.
Well,
exactly. You know, we're going to allow bar dances in Ashland County, but you know, the other thing too is, you know, you can't have fun at Louisville anymore. I mean, I'm going to throw that out there. So
you can't do what now, Brandon?
Have fun in
Louisville.
Have
fun at Louisville.
Oh yeah. Oh,
you got fun police there too. So
well,
you know.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Unfortunately,
I mean, you know, they're everywhere.
No bar dances at Louisville.
Like you said, Brandon, follow the money.
Yeah.
Well, and that,
you know.
Yeah.
Listen to this conversation. This reminds me so much, and you know, the game in trucking has changed so much over the years, and how this corruption and just where the money goes. That I always say, you know, you look at the movie, and I know it sounds crazy, but there's a lot of truth to this. The movie White Line Fever. Oh man, it does a really good job of outlining the industry challenges at that time. You know, and you see that. This has been a fight since day one, pretty much, of the trucking industry. You know, once there was money in it, the money controlled everything. You know, and it created this group of corrupt people, and forever it's always been the truckers against, you know, the other group or whatever. You know, and it seems to go back and forth. But what I think we're seeing now is just the technology. You know, that anybody can be a freight broker now. Anybody can get into this industry. You know, it's, if you got a phone, you know, where back in the day it was a lot harder. You know, I can remember, you know, back when I first started, the GPSs were first coming out, everybody was still using atlases, and you had to phone in, you know, and it wasn't like you were just going to get on your flip phone somehow.
Yeah.
And find a load. There was nothing out there for that. You know, you weren't. It was a lot harder, and now everything's at our fingertips, which has also made this a lot easier for these people to dictate this stuff. You know, everybody's in it now.
Hey, anybody with half a sense about them and able to hustle, you know, any hustler goes to Mid-America Truck Show and finds all that freight software and apps that's out there, and they're like, well, this is like, you know, this is farming, man. I can go farming, you know, and they're going to go farming for truckers and loads and make it happen. That's right. I mean, you know, I kind of see it that way. By the way, good knowledge, White Line Fever, Carol Joe Shelby. Huh?
Yeah, so it was Carol Joe Hummer, and then King
Hummer.
Carol.
Yeah, and
King
the Blue
Carol
Mule
was the guy they were fighting, you know, and he had all the parade.
Blue Mule was his truck, man, which was a what was it, like a 75 Ford cab over or something?
Yeah, it was a Ford cab over.
Well, the movie's from 75, so yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I'd tell you.
The guy was in what, Airwolf. The main character is the guy from Airwolf, right?
Yeah. Michael.
But like I say, you know,
Gibson.
as crazy as it sounds, that movie outlines the industry challenges. And you look at that movie and, you know, it really hasn't changed a whole lot other than the technology. We're still fighting the man. We're still, you know, it's still an industry full of challenge. It's still, you know, all these fuel issues. Matter of fact, the opening scenes in the movie are actually live interviews from truckers during the fuel strikes.
Yeah.
So, you know, and here we are all these years later, and it's very similar, you know.
Every time I get a rotten avocado, I remember that scene of him opening up the trailer and it's just full of rotten avocados, man. And Rob, I don't know if you're with us on the White Line Fever knowledge, but yeah, anyway, Brandon and I, we can stroll back into the you know, the memories of our mind of all these crazy things. All in all, I think it's still the same scam or the same story. It's just it's more refined, and there's probably more ways to do it now because there's more access points to everybody and everything. And these guys, you know, they're the receivers, not the receivers, but the truckers, you know, they're in there too, man. They're, you know, plunking along on their phone or their device, and they're trying to connect the dots and do what they're doing without any thought. And it goes back to well, I'm going that way anyways. Yeah. Okay. Throw it on the back of my truck. I'll take it. You just screwed yourself and everybody else, you know, behind you on that one, man. And I don't know what the solution is. I've always thought that some sort of consortium would have power in numbers if you're to build yourself a consortium of drivers that call themselves, hey, we know what's going on. You're not going to screw us consortium. And so if you want the load to get there, we'll get it there for you, but it's going to be $4 a mile.
Well, I think one of the things that goes back to what Brandon said about when we had the fuel strikes back then, and I wrote an article about this maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago on FreightWaves, and back then it was a little bit different, right? Like there was power in the numbers, kind of like you said, but there was also powers in the money. There was also power in the money you were making, so you could make more money because you had a better profit. It was confined to who was in the industry. Everybody knew everybody. And you could kind of get everybody to brotherhood together to say, this is what we're going to do. Like, we're not going to do that $1.30 mile crap.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that allowed us to do that back then was you were making more money, right? Like you had a surplus of funds that you could work off of if you decided to say, hey, we're going to just shut down for a week. We're not going to pay these fuel prices.
Right.
The industry has kind of gotten to a point where it's bottom dollared itself so bad. The entire industry is pretty much paycheck to paycheck, right? So now they've kind of got you to a point where even if you could get everybody together to say, hey, we're taking a week or two off, half the people would immediately go out of business. They just don't have any capital to actually support themselves for that period of time. So I think the world realizes that the power of the trucker has kind of been reduced, and the world has done that too. And they've done it to themselves. Because you just don't have the capital to survive anymore. Your rates are so depressed that you can't actually save money.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I mean, we had everything was done in numbers. Okay, look, trucking is a lot of pieces and a lot of parts, and if you don't know the numbers of trucking, you're not probably going to be around that long. You're just hoping on the fact that there's always money in the bank, and if you got a bill, you got money in there to pay it, and that doesn't add up. You got to know you got to work X amount of days, make X amount of money, and this is going to get you through, X amount of months in the year to get down and get through it and get to the next one. And in our world, we had a cycle of work. There was winter work, there was spring work, summer work, fall work, and you had it all lined out pretty much what you're doing. Now, it all comes back down to the numbers, though. You got to work X amount of days per month. And the magic number for us was 19. That was 19 days a month for sure. You got to get those in. And you got to make X amount of money in those 19 days per day. And you keep going. Now comes the unforeseen. You lose a tire, you lose a wheel, you lose a transmission, whatever happens along the way that you end up losing, breaks, fails, whatever, wears out. Now you have that other cost, and you're supposed to have banked for that too. But to your point, a lot of these guys can't. They're at that, check to check. Well, okay, quit taking $1.30 a mile freight when you should be getting $4 a mile. And that way, no matter what happens, you have a better chance of recovering. I mean, I hate to be out there on the road and break down $1.30 at $1.30 a mile and stuck in, Wamsutter, Wyoming. Who knows where? I don't know. I mean, right? And that probably happens a lot with some of these guys. And then what? Then what do you do? I can't even imagine.
I've kind of gotten to the point where, I can look at a carrier. I can go to a carrier. We can do an assessment, or I can go to or I can look at an insurance company, and I can judge an insurer by who they insure, and I can judge the insured by who's insuring them. But just like you can do that, you can kind of look at a truck and you can say, that's a guy who's making money and taking care of his stuff, who's pricing his stuff right and running his business well.
Right.
Most of the industry is not that way. You don't see a whole lot of Troy Massey trucks running around, right? There's a reason why we see a whole lot more of Freightliners with 4 different colors on the cab. It's because people just aren't pricing their stuff right.
Poor Freightliner never gets a break. Next, he's going to start talking smack about Volvos too. Here it comes.
No, I'm going to stay away from that part. But
you know what? I got a job offer. They sent me through LinkedIn. I got a job offer from Volvo. They wanted me to talk to them about marketing, and I'm like, ooh, I don't know, man. I might get strung up.
Bruce Wilson kind of did that with, did this thing with Scania, right? I think we all know that. And I think Volvo was trying to find somebody to do the same thing at some point, but I don't think they ever were successful in actually getting it done. But
yeah. Well, and listen, Volvo gets a bad rap just because, and they're a Volvo, and that's just how it is. But nice truck. I mean, listen, creature comforts and what they got going on with those things. My understanding, they're pretty dang good trucks, reliable and smooth, comfortable, quiet, all the things we all want. But they're sure not a Pete. They're sure not a Kenworth. Okay, get it. But yeah, anyway, let's go in the other direction now. So the brokers, we know how we feel. We know what they are. We know what we're getting. If you call up a broker, you know what you're getting involved in. And is that any different than calling some carrier and going direct? I mean, depending on who the carrier is, and you're getting a load from a carrier, or you start becoming involved with a carrier, you could fall into another trap, right? I mean, isn't that kind of where we've gone with you and what you've been finding out and discovering through the stories that you've been sharing here?
Well, I think you got nefarious people in every line of work, whether it's carrier or broker or whatever we're going to go down, med examiners, ELDT schools, whatever.
Yeah.
It's some crazy ones out there. I mean, we had the Massachusetts State Police third-party examiner selling CDLs for Swedish fish and Fiji water, right? So it was like, it's broad spectrum crazy. But that was a crazy story, dude. When I read like he was selling, I'm like, what? How much was he getting? And they're like Fiji water and Swedish fish. I'm like, brother, you could have got some Sour Patch Kids or Warheads or something, right? Like he was going with the most ghetto candy dude could find. But
Holy crap, man!
Anyway, you kind of get into these
Red vines would have been my choice, but yeah, okay.
you get into these areas of crazy everywhere in the industry.
Yeah.
And carriers are no different, but it kind of goes right back to the same thing. These bad carriers, you can generally know who you're dealing with based on how much they're pricing their freight at, right?
Yep.
I mean, I know that if I'm going to, let's just say a Eastern European carrier in Chicago that recently got closed down because of a truck crash, and they're only billing me $1.50 a mile in 2026, like I got to recognize, hey, there's something wrong here.
Yep.
But it kind of goes back to who's ultimately responsible for picking the carrier too. I mean, you've got the Montgomery Supreme Court case coming up, and that's supposed to have a verdict in the next 45 days. And then we're going to have you could have a totally different broker mentality where they're no longer responsible at all and can't be held liable for the carriers that they choose, even though you know that, hey, I should recognize there's something wrong with $1.50 a mile in 2026. Or I should be able to look at that carrier's safety record on Safer, even at a minimal level, and say, hey, there's something not right here. I mean, we've got carriers out there, even with a satisfactory rating, who have had 87 crashes in 2 years, 40 injuries, and 10 fatalities. That carrier has a satisfactory safety rating. So you can't always go by the rating, but you can look at things like that and say, wait a minute, that's a lot of freaking crashes and a lot of fatalities in 2 years. Like, I don't know if I want to give them my freight or not.
Yeah, and we're saying it's okay.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I try to tell people is, if you see a property carrier like that, pretend they're your kid's school bus company and ask yourself, would you put your kid on that school bus if that was the school bus carrier? If your answer is no, because they have 10 fatalities in 2 years, then don't put your freight on it, because that's your relationship with that shipper, right? Like, if you're a broker and you're trying to get this ship for your shipper client, you might lose your client. I mean, the goal should be service at the end of the day. So I think either way, if you're deciding on that carrier, you should have enough sense, if you're going to be in the industry, to be able to discern who's good and who's bad.
But you're a safety guy. Here's what I think it boils down to. You've got a government agency supposed to be overseeing everything, and they're not. So it's like, what's going on with that? Like, because everything that we're talking about, if they were doing their job, or they were doing what they were supposed to be doing, none of this would be going on. So what is, like, they're there to try to stop that. What is going on with this thing? Why even have them? Why even have them at that point? So,
well, I'll say this, like, I'm working with FMCSA almost every day right now. And I'll give it to Derek Bars and Sean Duffy and their bunch. Like, they're doing more now than I've ever seen them do, whether it was,
and that's what I hear. Right.
Stu Lawless or Jack Van Steenberg or whoever. I'll say Jack Van Steenberg and Jim Mullen, when they were administrators, they had really good lists, but they didn't have the support. Now we've got an administration that's got some support. But I think your biggest problem is, imagine changing spouses and houses 13 times in 7 years. You're never going to have any level of stability. The industry is no different. If you're changing someone who's actually managing enforcement 13 times in 7 years, that's 2 changes a year. I mean, you're not ever going to get anything accomplished. So you might as well say we've been rudderless and solutionless for 7 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I make that's part of it. The other part is just the sheer numbers of it. Now, while these guys, all the carriers are all in the system, and the trucks and the drivers and the owner ops, everybody's in the system, supposedly. Just the sheer numbers of these guys and the incidents that are happening, I think the system's overwhelmed. There's not enough people to follow up on the data and get to it and do anything. I mean, when you got 10 fatalities in a company and that's considered satisfactory, I mean, okay, let's just look at that just for a minute. Maybe 5 of them were not the company's fault. Okay. They just, circumstantially were wrong place, wrong time. Something bad happened. And then the other 5, it's on the driver. It's on the company. It's something to do with that company, their truck, their driver. Okay. Are we still going to say, all right, you know what? You're okay. Go ahead. I don't think we should be in that state, but we are.
Yeah, there's definitely some methodology issues, and I know I don't know if anybody knows, but they're changing that this year. So when that prioritization comes out, we'll see what happens if they change that methodology and how they're rating carriers to come up with that satisfactory rating by 10 fatalities every 2 years. Because I mean, you can even say like, hey, 5 wasn't their fault. Well, I know carriers who spent 40 years in the industry and they've never even had a crash. So
never had a crash. Yeah.
The way I look at that is if you had 10 fatalities in 2 years, even if 5 weren't your fault, you had something still management wrong in that there was something systemically wrong with how you were operating, whether your routing sucked or your maintenance was bad, whatever the case was, something's definitely still not right there. But it's just gotten to be crazy all the way around, top down, industry enforcement, all the way down to the bottom piece of it. So I can't tell you what the answer is, but I can tell you that I think if we're looking at it from an enforcement piece and a government side to solve the problem, now is probably the best time or the opportunity you're going to have to get it done. And I know there's a lot of things that are coming in the near future. We'll see if they actually get passed, but the non-domicile CDL piece was pushed really heavy. And when they tried to make that an emergency rule, they did that because everybody wanted it done. The entire industry said, we got to get them off the road. We got to do it. You got to do it now. They took that action. And then 6 months later, it died in court because they didn't have data to support it. So one of the things that I try to teach, try to push people in the industry is saying, yeah, I know you want it now. I know we want this done now. But sometimes the guardrails of government, if you don't follow the process, you're going to be right back there again in 6 months, going back and doing it all over again. So I think a big part of it is whatever we decide to do, we got to make sure we do it right. That way we're not constantly, repeating the cycle.
So two things, explain the non-domicile deal and the other I want to get into, and we may run a little long, a little over the top of the hour today, but is this court case that's coming up. So first, the non-domicile issue, and John Hiley, good to have you on in the morning here with us. And you're 100%, John. People don't. The pride is everything. People don't. They don't take. They're chasing the dollar, dude, and you know that they're just chasing the dollar. But go ahead, Rob. Explain the domicile issue.
Yeah, so non-domicile license, I mean, it was a totally American way. It was a real rule made for real American truck drivers, if you will. But the idea was if you were, say, in the military and you actually were licensed in California, but you were residing in Virginia, you could get a non-domiciled CDL. That was the entire original premise of how that rule was supposed to be put into effect. Then you had states like California who perverted these things, and they've actually passed things like AB 60, where you could get a commercial learner's permit and then turn that into a CDL. And the next thing you know, you've got a lot of non-domicile people running around. And a lot of them we were seeing crashes. And whether you say that's because everyone has a platform and everybody has a camera, we're seeing all these foreign truck drivers that are getting in these crashes. And the problem was, the government stepped in because the industry demanded something happen. Duffy stepped in, said we're going to immediately impose an emergency rule and no more non-domiciled CDLs. The problem is anytime there's a process for rulemaking in the United States trucking industry, and that process is basically notice of proposed rulemaking, where everybody gets to comment on it and see the pros and the cons and all that good stuff. And then it becomes a rule. That process was bypassed through that emergency order, but that emergency order didn't have any data to support it. So 6 months later, you're at the Court of Appeals and we just have to give up. We literally gave that case up, and we gave it up because we didn't have data to support it, and we bypassed the proposed rulemaking process. So now we're actually going back again to where we should have done 6 months ago. We're going to follow that notice of proposed rulemaking, gather data, allow comments, and then we're going to have to approach it again before the end of the term, which only gives you 2 years. So that's what's happening now in terms of non-domiciled CDL issue. You kind of got to follow the government process, or you're just going to keep working yourself in circles.
Well, California marches to the beat of its own drum and always has. And what unfortunately happens too is that others want to follow in suit. They think California is setting the trend for the rest of the nation to follow. And oh Lord, they are not. Okay. And trust me, the rest of the United States, you don't want to follow their example. Okay. You just don't.
Yeah.
Beautiful state. I love the landscape. I love the weather. I was born and raised there, but holy heck, man.
Rob's currently dealing with that in Virginia right now. From what I understand,
California and I, Virginia yesterday, especially. I
heard.
I'm in a very like hyper conservative area of Virginia. I mean, you can see our little red dot on the map right in the middle of all this blue, and it's nothing really but rural farmers and stuff around here. And I mean, it's kind of like colonial America. My family's been here since Jamestown in the 1600s. So like some of us are still here and that's still where we are, but we're now voting with Arlington County, which is 3 hours north, and nothing but deep blue. So
my buddy's around Norfolk. He's in the Coast Guard and I've been there several times. We've been there several times and I'm not a fan.
Yeah,
I am not a fan. I could not. I mean, I've been to Virginia many times, but I'm talking about in the last, and because they were there before, I'm saying probably in the last 2 to 3 years. Like it's wild. Like no thanks, nothing.
It's transient. That's the biggest issue we have. Is I mean, not everybody is colonial Virginia people, right? I mean, we got a lot of military and Fed government workers here that end up being leftist and things like that. So once that kind of takes root, it's hard to get it out.
Code Blue Media has the exact answer right there that big cities are controlling Virginia. Well, the big cities are controlling California. California is a huge state, but when you're controlled by Sacramento, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, the rest of it doesn't count. It's the same story. Same thing in Oregon. Everything comes out of Portland and Salem, but the rest of us don't want to live by those rules. We're screwed. It's just the way it is. Same thing. So
yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of friends in Monterey and in Monterey County and Salinas. I mean, there's a huge Republican population. I mean, when we go to Laguna Seca, there's not very many liberals there. It's just you've got these big areas of pockets, and that's what it is.
Yeah, but the KSBW, their NBC affiliate, I'll name them. They're bleeding blue all the way, man. And I'll tell you what, the way they are on social media too, it's just outrageous. For a news source to be that leaning in one direction, they are not. And they didn't used to be that way. When I grew up in that area, they were not that way, but boy, are they now. And they just slam anybody conservative in not nice ways too. I mean, pretty bad. Yeah. Code Blue back on there again. Anyway, now let's talk about this court case that's just about done and wrapping up, and we're gonna have a decision on it, and it's going to determine who's responsible and who should and shouldn't, or actually who should be responsible but might end up not being. Right? Isn't that kind of one way to look at it? I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Montgomery Supreme Court case. So the argument is that brokers shouldn't be responsible for the carriers that they hire, and I was surprised because they had asked me at DOT to come up. This was maybe 5 weeks ago. I came up. I had a meeting with them in DC, and I didn't get this impression from them. But then maybe 2 days after I left there, they submitted an amicus brief with the Supreme Court that said we are basically friends of. We have no party in this case. We're just friends of the court. We are making an argument that to basically allow brokers to be responsible would mean that they have the right to determine on their own outside of our data whether they should hire a carrier or whether a carrier is safe. FMCSA was basically arguing that people should rely 100% on the FMCSA data that they put out to the public, and that rating should be what decides whether a carrier is safe or not exclusively. The problem with that is only like 10% of trucking carriers or less have a rating to begin with. So that leaves everybody else and the other 90% of carriers to make their own determination based on number of crashes, injuries, fatalities, tows, violations, out of service rates, whether that carrier is fit to hire or not. But you've got a lot of cases, and one of the things I built into my website is you can actually go on there, you can look at C.H. Robinson, select them, or TQL, or any other broker or shipper you want, and it'll show you every carrier that they've put on a load that's been cited or in a crash in the past 5 years. And you start looking at some of those, I mean, some of those guys that they're hiring have 100% across the board out of service rates. 384 crashes, 93 fatalities. I mean, these people are actually looking at these numbers and saying, yep, that's who I want to haul my load today. And I think what's going to happen if it's to determine that they can't be held liable is it's going to be a free for all. They're going to have no consideration at all. And then you're going to have even bigger problems.
Yeah. Why would they? Where's the incentive to have any concern or care about doing any legwork before they hire anybody and keep them in their string versus, just pulling a auto dial to whoever it is that they know is the cheapest every time they call them. And then they get the next guy in line after that and the next guy in line after that and so on. And it's basically, we are cheap and that's it, period. That's all they care about because they're going to make the money. That's what they want. Again, it's all about the money, but
margin optimization is going to become number one. That's it.
Yeah. Now, I mean, everybody has to register with FMCSA. What constitutes getting a safety rating from FMCSA? When does that happen? How does that happen?
Well, you got 700,000 trucking companies, only 350 enforcement agents to actually monitor them. And that's why we don't have those ratings established, because you have to have a full compliance review. There's different kind of focus. You got a focus compliance review, you got a full compliance review, and then you got new entrants. Well, new entrants might not get seen for 12 to 18 months. A chameleon carrier is not going to be here in 12 to 18 months. They're going to have long been shut down.
Yep.
Focused audits, you don't get a rating out of a focused audit. So you actually have to have somebody come out and do a full compliance review to actually get a rating of satisfaction.
At the terminal. Yeah.
At the terminal.
Yeah.
So the problem is, how do you get 350 enforcement agents to go see 700,000 trucking companies? You can't.
Well,
Pulling from the IRS. They got plenty of people.
Right.
Yeah. Funny guy. That, in 2002, I think it was, I can't remember exactly, when things switched over and we were required to get an MC number, which we weren't before, but we were required to then. At that point, all of that responsibility then fell into the state of California Highway Patrol, and the Highway Patrol was coming out and doing terminal inspections. I was the first one in San Joaquin County to get that done. And I passed. Hello. And got my pre-passes, and everything was groovy from then on. But the inspection was hit right there, hands on. Man, the guy came out. This was his first inspection. I was the first one to get it done. He's like, we'll see what happens. I'm like, okay, I guess so. Here we go. And open everything up and let him have a look at it. And away we went, and,
one big issue with that is that's really the MSAT program, where they put out $400 million a year to state agency partners to go out and do these. And CHP is one of those state agency partners.
Yeah. Right.
Problem is then you're 100% reliant on how CHP decides to do their inspection. I can tell you from doing compliance reviews in Sonoma County or Santa Rosa or Los Angeles, San Diego, or Monterey, every single one of those CHP officers I've dealt with during a compliance review, totally different. Some of them focus on things that the feds focus on, and some of them don't even look at what the feds focus on. They focus on what California wants them to focus on.
Right.
So when you're starting to rely on those state agency partners, especially California and New York, who are licensing illegal drivers to begin with,
right,
you've got a problem with how you're actually getting your data and your data quality that's actually being fed into MCMIS at FMCSA. So that's really your issue.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and I know from my own experience, I got pulled over by CHP one time, and had a headlight out. Because I asked him, I said, "Why'd you pull me over, by the way?" And he goes, "You got a headlight out." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, what?" and I get out of the truck. I go over to the headlight. Sure enough, it's out. I gave it a whack, and it came back on. "Are you happy now?" He's, "No." "Let me see your logs." And it was on from there. And he signed me out. But you know what? He didn't know what he was looking at. He couldn't read the logbook. He just signed me. He says, "I just want you off the road." So he signed me out and told me to go to the hotel down the road. And that was that. That being said, to your point, there's no standardized training that's, here for these guys to go on. And the California Highway Patrol, when they came and did my terminal, he told me, he said, "I don't know who's going to pay for all this. I don't know how this is going to keep happening, but here we go." And that's kind of what the attitude was, and not faulting the officer. He's just doing what he's told to do. It's just, that's how it is. So, until it's standardized and everybody's on the same page, you're going to get exactly what you're, sharing with us here. And that's a different version of itself wherever it shows up, So
I think it's so important too, that we got to standardize this. I mean, I 100% agree with that. The other side of it too is we got to get legislators in office that are also advocating for this stuff and recognizing these problems that, I can't say it enough, when we go vote in our primaries, whenever each state's primary is, it's so important that we elect good candidates that understand these things. Because, to Rob's point, and he's exactly right, that and especially me being in politics now, I'm learning this. There's a process to this stuff, and it takes time. It's always the knee-jerk reaction that, you see these things and you just want to go out there and change it immediately. Well, there's processes that you have to abide by to get these things done. And when you don't do that, it ends up backing the process up even further. And we got to get people in office that recognize that and are willing to do it and have the support behind it. Because it's the other thing too, Rob said it earlier that some of these issues had arose before, but they didn't have enough support behind them to actually get something done. And that's always one of the problems with politics and our government is, it's got to have the support to move forward, and they got to concentrate on it. And this is something that needs concentration. It really does.
Yeah. And to dovetail in on that, Brandon, it's having the guys in the positions of authority that know what they're talking about and know what they're looking at when they see it and can do something about it. And if it has to go in front of the voter to be voted in, whatever it is that we're looking to get done, they need to write these bills and these things so that people can understand what the hell they're reading. Because I'll tell you what, in California, they do stuff just on purpose to make it so that when everybody thinks they're getting a no vote, it actually means yes. And when you think you're getting a yes vote, it means no. Am I right, Rob?
We do the same thing here. That's part of why I'm running. I laugh all the time because, I'll go to some of these government meetings, and they're in there and they're talking numbers, and they're making it sound all great. You're feeling all warm and fuzzy inside. Well, as a scene from Tommy Boy, really the reality of it is the car's crashing, the family's, over the hill in a burning car. And that's actually what's really happening, But hey, you know what? We feel warm and fuzzy inside about these numbers because it looks great on paper. So
well, this Virginia referendum that passed yesterday, I took a picture of it when I voted. Again, I put it online because the question asked was, do you think we should restore fairness by changing the congressional map? And if you were to read that, obvious. It's like that question is, right. Do you want to donate to SPCA? No. Well, do you not love dogs? Well, of course I love dogs. Well, then why don't you want to donate? It's kind of the same mentality. Yeah. It's like
it literally said, like, "Do you want to restore fairness?" It said that right on the ballot language.
Oh yeah, it's on my. I put it on Facebook. So there is an argument now, like lawsuit wise, to say this should totally be void because the question was so what it was.
Yeah, I mean, because your version of fairness and my version of, you know what I mean? Like that should have been done. That is completely, that's wrong.
I'm going to throw this out there because this happened in real life to me. My ex-wife, wanting me to do something that I know damn well I don't want to do and shouldn't be done. And her reasoning is, but you love me, don't you?
You got to restore fairness. Yeah.
No, just
What's wrong
shoot
with
me.
Crazy.
Well,
Oh,
it's like too, every time now it's like, and we talk about this because we have such a big property tax issue here in Ohio. Okay. So it's, they're trying to get on the ballot to abolish property taxes, and it looks like it's going to happen. Well, one side's, obviously saying, hey, this is why we need to abolish these. And then the other side, immediately is, well, how are we going to fund our schools? You don't like children? You don't want children to
Yep.
get an education?
Right.
It's straight to that. It's always
Right.
puppies, kids,
Yeah.
something that's going to pull at your heartstrings.
Yeah.
That's always the good old political game and the political machine at work there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it brings it back to know what you are reading, know what you are voting for, because it doesn't always work out to be what you think it said or read. It really doesn't. And that gas tax in California that they got passed was a perfect example. I don't know if were you around then, Rob, in California when that one went through?
Yeah, I mean, there's been some retarded things that they've done that people have voted for, and I think 100% think it's a literacy thing. Like it's a reading comprehension thing.
Oh, it is. But they write that stuff in a way too, where I'm looking at it and I'm going, wait a minute, what did that say?
It's propagandized ballot verbiage basically, and it's phrased in a way to where how could you not want to accept this? Like this is you.
We have that in a local issue here. They're talking about if you want to. So some of the townships are trying to keep out data centers, things like that, and
that's a big deal.
And it's super confusing. Like if you vote yes. Then the township's going to be able to say what you can and can't do with your property. Essentially, they're going to be able to say, hey, if you've got 100,000 acres and you want to sell it to a data center, that should be on you. But the township, if you vote yes, they're going to be able to say no.
Yeah.
If you vote no, then they don't have that right. And I've gotten 12 different pieces of mail in my, throughout the last couple of weeks, and like people are confused. Like I've got people posting all the time. What's this mean? What is it? Yes? Is it no? What's it mean?
We got to get away. We kept yes or no answers without having a yes or no question. And that's part of the issue. And what it should be is, should we change congressional districts? Yes or no? No. But now you have a paragraph that big, and it's like, So
yeah,
I'm for changing them. I'm against changing them, or something to that effect, or something. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's literally, we want to change congressional districts. What do you mean you don't like puppies? That if you don't, we got to do it.
Yeah.
Save the puppies. Save Ferris. Save Ferris.
Yeah.
It's horrible, but it's the truth. And the sad part is, I don't even want to talk about. Because I spend a lot of time in Virginia every year, and twice a year. And I don't even want to talk about the organization to draw any type of attention to them, because I'm sure right now every one of us that's in that organization is just wondering what in the world's going to happen in Virginia, because, that's our main place we go every year, and it's obviously a controversial deal. We guns, firearms. I mean, all the stuff that Virginia's starting to not like now, and it's like, it's kind of wild, because I go there and it's like I see that side of Virginia every year, and then you see this, and it's like, and I know it all comes down to what they're doing and how they're wording things, because the average person in Virginia doesn't feel that way. I mean, there's no way.
Yeah.
Well, they're from Virginia for sure, but that's a problem. The transients and all people coming in.
Yeah.
Anybody else seeing whatever it is floating around in Matt's screen? Have you guys noticed that? There's like this white, I don't know what it is. What's going on over there, buddy?
Don't know. I don't see anything.
It kind of floats in and through and keeps on going, and I've seen it like 5 times. I don't know what it is, man. You got a cobweb or something in there, buddy.
It's an orb.
There's some ghostly beings over there on set for you today, Matt.
Yeah.
I think. All right, well, listen, Rob, thanks for your time today, man. I mean, I know there's more to this, but if people want to follow up, find you, and all that kind of stuff, I mean, where do they look?
I'm at trucksafe.com. We've got X. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn. We're pretty much everywhere. So,
yep. And then you're out on other shows doing talks and things too. What's lined up, or where's some other places to find you in that respect?
I got Sirius on Thursday afternoons with Charles Gracie, and then I'm on Sirius this week on Friday again, and then I'm just about pretty much everywhere.
Okay, good. Yeah, well, I mean, there's a good message in there. There's good information. I mean, the message, not sure yet what it is, but the information is there. I think the message falls back onto the operators again. You guys got to get it figured out, man. When you stop taking low rates and hauling cheap freight, it's going to stop happening. The rates have to go up. Well, the only way the rates are going to go up is if you guys make them go up. I'm sorry, but that's the reality of it.
That's it.
So, Brandon, what's happening with you this week? What are we happening?
Everything, man. It's like I say, we're down to the last 2 weeks of this primary. I'm super busy with the campaign. We got a lot going on there. I know me and Matt we're kind of at this point where I think we're all winding down, getting tired, but we're on that home stretch. So I'm running as hard as I can, and got a lot going on in the shop. There's a lot of fun things we're working on, and it's definitely a busy week here in the shop as well. So kind of running myself ragged. It's been some late nights here this week, and after the whole Louisville thing, and getting that truck done and getting it out the door, there's a lot of late nights there, and I'm kind of right back into it again and getting ready for Tony's show. So.
Well, it's like the guys out here hauling freight for free. Quit working on trucks for free. Matt, what's up with you?
That'll never happen again. Don't worry.
I'm retired, so I do whatever everybody else wants me to do, apparently. So
okay, all right.
That's how that works. So I don't have anything to do until someone tells me, particularly my wife, that morning or whatever. So like I said, I'm retired. I try not to do anything, but then I find out you got all the stuff to do. So.
All right. John Hiley's excited to get it back to Ashland. So, John, good travels to you to get back there to Brandon and get something done on the bus. I'm sure you guys are going to be playing around on that. Rob, love to have you back on the show again and talk more about what you're doing at the time as well as how things are shaping up on what we discussed here today. Okay.
That works.
Awesome. Good. All right, everybody, listen, we'll be back this afternoon with Studio 10-4 Live in the weekly update. That's at 5 o'clock Pacific time. And I have Stan Silva Jr. on today. I may have somebody else on as well. We're going to do a follow-up from Stan's show that he hosted this weekend in Castroville, California, and how that was and all maybe the information that Stan has to share. So if he's gotten all the numbers worked out and everything, it was a charity show. All the proceeds go to St. Jude. So we'll find out how that worked out. But great show, good time. Trucking for Kids, everybody get registered. If you haven't and you're going, get it done. Get registered. Why are you waiting to get registered, my friends? Get it done. Get registered. Be part of the first 200 to register and get your buckets. Vendor spaces and all that stuff, I think if it's not shut off, it's probably going to be any minute. So if you're looking for that kind of thing, we'll go down that road and all that information in this afternoon's show and get you all up to speed. But Trucking for Kids, man, week and a half away, and it's going to be a lot of fun down in Bakersfield, California at the Famoso Speedway. All right, everybody, stay safe, guys. Thanks a lot as always. We'll catch you next time. Take care.
Thanks, guys.